Okay, you guys, it's a brand new day. Actually, it's been a couple days. Yesterday was the 4th of July, and I went to the very first Nashville Cars and Coffee that they had for this year, thanks to the coronavirus. But it was a really good turnout. And while I was up there, my local O'Reilly's, which is, you know, my auto parts store of choice, for one reason and one reason only, it's because I used to work there many moons ago. And I'm just, you know, loyal to that place. Interesting. But while I was up in Nashville, I searched around. My local O'Reilly's could not get some new brake rotors for me until next week. Well, I didn't want to wait until next week to get the car back on the ground. So I went up there and I looked around. I went to an O'Reilly's up there in Nashville. They did not have any. They couldn't get any rotors until next week as well. And then I went to AutoZone just to see. They also could not get any rotors until next week. And then, lo and behold, I went to Advanced. I guess in my old age, or as I have grown older and wiser, I've come to realize that, and I realized this way before this weekend, but I realized a while back that really an auto parts store is only as good as the people that work there. So not every O'Reilly's is great, not every AutoZone sucks, and not every Advance has, you know, all the parts that you may possibly need or whatever, or however you may see it, you know, it depends on your area. And not only did they have the rotors that fit my car, but they were cheaper than everywhere else, and they're painted from the factory. Like the center here is painted, and the outside edges here are painted as well, to keep rust from happening, which is super freaking cool if you ask me. And they were the right size because, you know, like I said, not every auto parts store is made equal. But when I went to O'Reilly's, they had some, what seemed to be some decently knowledgeable people, except for the fact that they just simply did not have any of these in stock. And then when I went to AutoZone, the guy there didn't know what the hell he was talking about, because he pulled up some base model RSX rotors, which are the same for the SI, and they are 262 millimeter across, and the RSX, you know, the upgradable system here, they're 300 mil, so much bigger rotor, bigger brake setup, and a lot of people take RSX-Type S brake setups and put them on their cars, like Integras and older Civics and things like that. So now that I got that story out of the way, we're going to be putting those on later. I got my grease gun. So real quick, we're going to go ahead and grease up the new ball joints. As you guys can see, I have cleaned up my area here as well, my poor workbench, and I have secured it. So now it can't go anywhere, which is something I probably should have done a long time ago. So normally you're supposed to do this with the hub on the car. I don't think I can do that because once the hub is up on the car and the ball joint is seated into the lower control arm, the axle has to be set inside of the hub assembly, and once the axle is in there, I don't think I'll be able to get this Zerk fitting off, and I don't want to leave this Zerk fitting in there. So with that being said, we are just going to roll with it, and we're just going to grease them up now. If I end up putting too much in there, it's just going to get squeezed out anyway, so I'm not super duper worried about it. All right. I did 10 or 11 squirts there, and I saw the rubber here. Yep, I've already got some coming out, so that's more than enough. But this is a nice feature, these Moog lower ball joints, being able to grease them like this. It puts them, in my opinion, miles above the factory ones. And don't torque that down too hard. It's not necessary. Now, once I put the lower control arm on here, it's gonna squish out a lot more grease. We'll just have to bite that bullet and clean it up. but I just wanted to go ahead and prep this now. This is completely finished. This can go back on the car. I'm gonna do the other side real quick. All right, both hubs are ready to go on. I'm draining my oil too right now because I'm doing an oil change while I'm here. I'd be dumb to not take the opportunity. All right, done with this completely. So now I'm just kind of letting, you know, the engine drain. It's probably done by now, but we're gonna go ahead and we are going to finish the lower control arms, and that's really what you guys are here to see. All right, preferably you have your vise mounted in a, you know, in a better fashion than this. But now with the table not moving, I think this is gonna be a lot easier. I think we're going to do the easier side first, and then we'll do the harder side. So the easier side is this side, believe it or not. For you guys, you're gonna have 3 of these. I've got 1.5. You're gonna have 4 of these, 4 of these, and 2 of these. All you gotta do is they give you enough lube. Anything that touches metal, lube it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze out the rest of this lube, and you definitely 100% want to be wearing gloves while doing this because this lube is nasty. It's unlike any other lube that I've ever seen in my life. Like, it looks fine at first when you pour it out. It's like, oh yeah, that looks fine. No big deal. No, this stuff is freaking disgusting. I can't even explain it. It's like glue. Once you get it on your skin, it does not want to come off. So just forewarning on that. All right, so once that's done, you're not gonna avoid getting lube all over this thing, but once that's done, you just shove this in there. And it's, you know, pretty simple. But see, I did that by hand. You're gonna go ahead and put some on this side. Squeeze both sides. Get your excess off again. And now that side's pretty much done. And the beauty of this is that if you ever, for whatever reason, need to do this job again, it is ridiculously easy with these bushings. And that is part of the reason why I'm even going through this. But, you know, I know at the beginning of this video, I sounded extremely discouraged, exhausted, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, once the job is done, it is such a beneficial modification. It still brings me joy doing stuff like this to my car, no matter how frustrated I may seem. And I think all you other fellow car people can understand that and relate to that really well. Because even though you're doing something you enjoy, you still get irritated by it from time to time. And that's not crazy. So then you just slide this bad boy in here like so. And make sure you got the other side pushed up as well. And then it, for some reason for me, it always seems to want to catch. Ah, great. This is a perfect opportunity for me just to use the vise. The vise will be able to take care of this with ease. And there we go. That is in there. Okay, so now this excess lube can go here. All right, I'm gonna change gloves really fast. And it doesn't help that there's so many metal shards everywhere in here. I've got so many cuts on my hands from doing this job. Okay. Oh, good. I don't have any more gloves. Let me run in the house and get some more real fast. So some of you may be asking yourself, SnowDrift, yes, why do you have a big metal plate up here? Well, that's a great question, viewer. I will show you. Like I said earlier, if you ever have to do this job again, these bushings make it super easy. They're very replaceable compared to the old ones, the OEM ones. But I found the piece of paper I was talking about earlier in this video. So they have some examples here of how to get this guy out. On here it shows that they're taking a hammer and a punch and punching out that knurled edge, and then taking a hacksaw and cutting it off to make it be able to be pushed out easier. So this is a route that you guys can take if you absolutely need to, and it comes in the instructions, but I just thought I'd show that to you. So that's one way to get this guy out. But to get this guy in, well, if you're using a vise and you've only got this much area, it makes it really difficult to get this bushing in. So something that you can do to help ease that process of installing this guy is get yourself a big piece of metal like this, and you can use it as kind of like a shelf, or like a bottom part of a press, like it's called a shelf, and it makes it to where you have an even surface to press something into something, so to speak. So I don't know all the correct terminology, but I'm definitely, this project has definitely confirmed it for me. I am 100% getting a press at some point. Luckily, my buddy Shane has been texting me some examples of used ones, and I think that'll be a really good route for me, is just to get a used one. So we're gonna squeeze out, I don't wanna use all this because we still got that other thing, that thing that needs a little bit of this, but look how sticky this stuff is. Like, that's my whole point. Like, I'm afraid that once this stuff dries, it's probably gonna be like super glue. So this part's kind of a pain in the butt. Once you get it started, it's really not too bad. In fact, I don't know if this is damaging or not to my progress or how it may affect this, but I'm just gonna squirt just a hair WD-40 in there just to help out the process. All right. So we're gonna stick this guy in here like so, and then we're going to stick this guy in here like so, and then we're going to just do that number right there. And this can be kind of hard, with just one person. It can be extremely difficult. So I suggest you get your girlfriend, your dog, your best friend, somebody to help you out with this. But once you get it here, this is when the magic happens. Ooh, or not, I lied. This is not where the magic happens at all. I'm doing my very best to get as much grease on this shirt as possible. So you wanna, basically you're just trying to make these two things as square as possible. So that way the bushing wants to go in straight as well. So just start out kind of slow, and it will eventually go in. Ooh. And you may have to use a little bit of leverage to help yourself out. There we go. There it is. You just kind of got to do that little dance right there, and that's it. Ha! We got it. Cool. We can't have it looking bad because it's not like anyone's going to be able to see it in the car. So now I'm just going to take some excess and just kind of lube up the interior. Just kind of go ahead and get that started. I'm sure you guys know how to do this. These bushings don't have an orientation, so if you're worried about that, don't worry about it. They got hired on the spot. And that's it for your awesome energy suspension lubricant. Boom. Done. We're good to go. We can now finally assemble the car back together. All right, now that wasn't too bad, was it? Now this is just covered in that stuff. I'm gonna put more gloves back on just for the installation of that. Need you. Need a 19. And I don't know if I've ever said this before, but we're not going to torque down these bolts until the car is back on the ground, so that way that there's no strain on the bushings at all. Honestly, with them being so lubed up the way they are, we probably almost could torque them down the whole way because they would rotate as needed, but I'm still not taking any chances, especially on this side because this side's been done for 2 days. So the lube is probably set up and glued the polyurethane to the metal. It's worse than vulcanization. So now we're gonna need a combination here. We're gonna need a combination of a sledgehammer and the crowbar, Gordon Freeman style. Gonna get this thing back in there real quick. And I left my dadgum impact gun up there. That's okay. Sway bar end link here. There we are. That's in. Now we just have to do some fine-tuning adjustments to the location. There we go. Just a little bit of persuasion. I'm trying to do my best not to damage the ABS. That would be tragic. All right, that's tight enough. Now we're gonna take these guys out. We're gonna get the ball joint seated. We're gonna get the knuckle put back on. We're gonna get the axle put back on and torqued back up. Then we can do the brakes and finish up the oil change. And then the RSX will be done. I suggest getting a bolt ready. I'm gonna line this thing up. Oh yeah, look at all that grease that just came out. Very nice. Let's get the axle in and then we'll figure it out. There we go. Axle is in. It's not seated, but it's in. Persuasion worked. Whew. There we go. There we go. That worked like a charm. And these holes are not oblong, so you don't have to worry about any like camber adjustments or anything. You probably will need an alignment after this is all said and done. Definitely not a bad idea. ABS sensor has to go in. Axle is through. Paper towels. And we're going to clean up where the ball joint goes. Because yeah, I put way too much grease in there, but like I said earlier, I would have rather have put too much in there than not enough. Goes on super nice. I love having new parts. Not sure what size it is. Maybe it's a 19. If we're ridiculously lucky. It is not a 19, but you know what is a 19? All this other stuff. Lower ball joint, the new lower ball joint is an 18, it seems. Well, looks like I'm doing it by hand, which is honestly probably a good idea. All right, you guys, so the instructions for these ball joints say to torque them down to like 48 to like 50 or 51 foot-pounds of torque. I just say torque it down tight enough. All right, cotter pins in. I've probably said this before in the past, but I'll go ahead and say it again. These new brake rotors come with a material on them called Cosmoline. It's a protective oily coating, and I hate this smell. I utterly hate it. So we're gonna do this outside. Try not to touch the friction part with your hands if you can. You got to work kind of quick because this stuff evaporates real fast. So now we just got to be real careful and just slide this back on. And my God, these look amazing. Like, I love that. I love that they're painted like that. That's really freaking cool, man. I usually start with the top bolt. These are 17s. Tighten them up pretty tight. That's probably good enough. And we're going to tighten up the sway bar end link here. Plenty tight there. I love this Tecton kit right here. It's all 1/2 inch sizes, but it's got, well, they're all 1/2 inch sockets, but it's got sizes 10 to 24, which is just awesome. Now, obviously, you don't want to be putting, you know, a shit ton of torque on something that's only a 10 millimeter, but it is really convenient to be able to use the impact gun to take some of this stuff apart. It does make it pretty dadgum convenient. All right. Time to get the caliper down. If you're asking yourself, Brandon, why is only half your brake caliper painted? That's none of your damn business. Yes, very nice. There we go. Yeah, that's locked up tight. Oh yeah. All right, that battery is dead. Okay, so we got that rotor cleaned up too. And it's about to get loud in here because this is one of the last things that we got to do. The biggest socket I own. What do you guys think it's for? And it looks like we got it pretty dadgum close. Looks like we actually got it further than it was before. Perfect. Done? I think we're done. This definitely has a torque, but I was able to get that nut off with my electric impact here. And that's where it was originally. And we got it tighter than it was originally. Just by a hair, not much at all. So it shouldn't cause any issues. So we've got, let's run through our checklist. Not torqued, not torqued. Ball joint is torqued. All the bolts for the calipers torqued. Axle nut is torqued. These two bolts are torqued. ABS sensor's torqued. And tie rod end link is torqued. And that's it. That's all we had to do. I'm actually going to do this really fast just because we're here. Wait a minute. Ah, makes sense. One last tip, you guys. Make sure that this stupid dust cover is not touching the rotor. Because if it is, like it is right there, it's going to make the worst noise you've ever heard in your life. All right, you guys, that is it. So that is how you replace your lower control arm bushings and your lower ball joint. I'm gonna do the other side off camera. It's the same exact procedure. And then once I'm done doing that, I'm gonna torque down the bushing bolts and then we'll be completely done. Okay, you guys, so I got the car completely put back together. Got both of the wheels on up front. Got everything torqued down the way it needs to be. So now I'm gonna let the car down and we're going to torque the lower control arm bushings. And that clunking that you guys heard, that was the suspension settling, which is exactly what we want. So I've got a number of extensions on the car right now, and I'm just gonna do my best to get that rear one. The rear one's the tough one to get, obviously. I do believe I got it. And sure, there's a torque spec for that somewhere, but I do not have it. That's the best. That is the best I can do. And there goes my socket. I truly believe that torquing this way trumps any kind of torque spec that you could probably find, because this is how the suspension was meant to be torqued. And I'm gonna have to torque the front one with this because I can't reach it otherwise. But the front one's really easy to reach. It's just right there. So this will probably be different for everybody, unless you're doing it to an RSX. If that's the case, then I will show you guys my setup. So to get the front one, that's all I'm using. And then to get to the rear one, I'm using probably about 1.5 foot worth of extensions here. So that's pretty much what you have to have. That one's good to go. Thank God for the LEDs on this thing. And it's gonna come off one piece at a time. That's cool. That's cool. Nope, there we go. We are completely 100% done. Whew. I do have one confession to make though. And I was planning on doing this anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. I stripped out a wheel stud, but that's okay. I'm gonna be getting some new ones from ARP, and they're gonna be absolutely awesome. So no worries there. I'll still be able to drive the car. Definitely don't want to like drag race it or anything like that, like this. No burnouts or anything. But I could still drive on this. You could still drive with 4 lugs on there. So it ain't gonna go nowhere, I promise. Just torque them down like they're supposed to be. And look forward to a future video. So I'm gonna finish topping off the oil. But other than that, you guys, the RSX is done, back on the ground, and now I can drive it again. So thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really hope it helps you out. Remember to share my videos with your friends, your family, and your dog. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care and have a great night.